Hi there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is made by fans for fans, and the content is absolutely free. And it's not just the pod, guys, as I continually say week in, week out. It's not just the pod that's free. We also have the website. There's written content on the Gersnet website, and there's the forums as well. So if you get yourself onto the forums, you'll find loads of like-minded bears, and it's all free. If this is your first time listening to the pod, we would encourage you to subscribe and put the word out there in social media. I have to give a big thanks to everyone. We've reached 3,000 subscribers this week. So thanks, guys. It's much appreciated. I think lockdown's had an impact on that. We've had a big sort of spike in the amount of subscribers that we've had. I think loads of people like myself, Matt, the amount of pods that I'm listening to has increased as we try and fill the hours during lockdown. Obviously, bigger things going on, so it maybe doesn't feel like quite the achievement that it should. But thanks anyway, guys. And if we're helping getting you through the day, then brilliant. All the better. The podcast is live tonight. It's live on the Sunday night. However, it will be available to stream or download on a variety of platforms from tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Catspot, Stitcher, and Spotify. You know the drill, guys, if you've been listening for a while. If you're new to the pod, hi and welcome. We've been going for a couple of years now, and as I said, we've reached 3,000 subscribers, which is quite a landmark for the pod. So on to the guests. We've got two stalwarts of the pod on tonight. We've got the gaffer, who I'm assuming will be quite happy with the recent news around the pod. We've got Stuart Franklin. How are you, Stuart?
Hi, Colin. Very well, thank you. Been enjoying the sunshine the last few days, obviously. It's great to have some weather while I'm off work. Unfortunately, our summer holiday, which we were due to go to Turkey at the end of June, has been cancelled. So I've bought a paddling pool for the wee ones just now. So hopefully that'll do them until our next chance to go abroad.
And how are you feeling? Obviously, you were giving us some updates on the WhatsApp through the week about us reaching 3,000 subscribers. How are you feeling about that? Because we've come quite a way in the 2 years.
Hi, it's brilliant. I'm very lucky to have so many good contributors over the last couple of years. For Pete and Christine, they've helped at the very start, and then guys like yourself, Ross and David, have done a fantastic job of hosting. And then we're really lucky to partner up with Stevie with the Four Lads stuff. They tend to do the interviews and with the ex-players, and obviously Alec McLeish recently as well. And it's a fantastic list of pods, and with this show on the Sunday, we dovetail quite nicely. So it's good that after a couple of years of hard work, the numbers are going up. It's 3,000 on YouTube the last day or two, and then we've got just over 1,000, I think, on iTunes, and then another 500 to 1,000 on Spotify. So can't argue with that. So it's all good.
Good stuff. And also joining us is, as Frankie alluded to there, we've got Stevie Clifford from the Four Lads blog and podcast. How are you, Stevie? How are you coping through lockdown at the moment?
How you doing, Colin? Evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm all right. It's just getting used to it now. A lot of family time. Obviously, my boys are 3 and 4, so it's difficult for them, and it's just trying to get walks and things on a daily basis to try and keep them amused more than ever. But no, I'm all right. Just trying to get on with it.
Yeah, I must admit. I mean, I've probably had one of my better weeks this week with the whole lockdown thing. I'd said last week on the show that I was sort of struggling to work from home, and I took some steps to address that this week. I wasn't completely productive, but certainly more than I had been. But the highlight of the week was I let my daughter cut my hair. She's 13, and I came home from a walk. I think it was Wednesday night, and I just looked in the mirror and I thought, I don't care how bad a cut is, it can't be any worse than it is now. So I let her loose with the clippers. So it's not salon standard, but I would certainly say it's better than it was before. So that was an interesting evening. Right, guys, we'll get on to the topics in hand and away from the lockdown chat. Frankie, I'll come to you first. Obviously, still no football. We'll come on to. There's been announcements in terms of when they're going to start the football again. We've been given a sort of 1st of August start date, and they're looking to get the players back in early June. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But there's no actual games to talk about. But there was an article this morning in the Sunday Mail. Now, it seems incredulous that we're having to deal with this after we spoke about an issue with the same publication last week when Club 1872 had a complaint upheld by IPSO about a story ran by that particular title, which is, as we know, is banned by Gersnet. Now, it was the thing. I never actually read it. I was up and out and about this morning, and then I was at a family barbecue this afternoon. When I came home, around about tea time, I started pulling the agenda together, and it was then, as you know, Frankie, I got in touch with you on the WhatsApp. The article's been pulled, which I think is telling. Now, if anyone out there listening doesn't know what it's about, it was David Lowe, who, as we all know, is a sort of famous Celtic fan, had commented about Rangers in terms of could they survive lockdown and the impact it was going to have on the club financially. Now, the first thing I'm going to ask Stevie, of all the people to comment, it seems that allowing someone like David Lowe is the most inappropriate person I can think of, other than Phil or Angela Haggerty or someone of that ilk. You know, you'd have to. Why would if the Sunday Mail are going to run a story about this, why are they allowing a guy like that to comment? And does that show you the level of integrity that's currently at that publication?
It's bizarre. David Lowe's the chairperson of the Celtic Trust, so I've no idea what kind of relevance he's got to comment on Rangers finances. Of course, Ewan Graham, I think he was the author of the piece. He's a Celtic fan as well. He has a lot of history with Rangers, shall we say. There's a good post on our forum today about him, and it kind of sums up the background of that guy and his intentions. But I mean, David Lowe is allegedly a financial expert, but some of the comments in the piece are laughable. From a professional point of view, never mind a sort of partisan point of view. So it's all a bit strange. I mean, David's background, I mean, he was involved with the Celtic rebels in the mid-90s when the Challenger biscuit tin mentality, of course. And if you go on, I think it's the Celtic Wiki, he's described as a Machiavellian spin doctor. So that in itself explains why he's maybe been picked by Celtic friendly journalists to speak about Rangers in the daily newspapers here. It's crazy. And I mean, the record in the Sunday Mail's relationship with Rangers is probably at an all-time low. And if you'll excuse the pun there, I suppose. So it's definitely not going to improve.
I like that, Stuart. I like that. That was good.
That was totally unintended. It just it worked quite well though. It's at an all-time low, and obviously things are not going to improve if they keep having silly articles like this. I mean, it's quite sad nowadays actually for some of these tabloid papers, whether it's the Record or the Sun. There's some good journalists write for them, and they've over the years, both these newspapers and several others have had good stories, important stories, and journalism for me is an important aspect to our freedoms in countries like this. And it's sad to see them reduced to clickbait articles to try and make a few pence advertising revenue here and there. And the quality of the journalism is terrible. It really is awful. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in Scottish mainstream media that I have much interest in reading nowadays. And that's not just from a Rangers fans' point of view, it's just for a football fan's point of view. And that kind of says a lot. I mean, I'm in my early 40s now, and I grew up reading people like McIlvenney and guys like that. And nowadays, there's as I say, there's nobody. I mean, Spears likes to think he's along those lines, and he's just a joke figure as well, completely discredited. And I just don't understand the viewpoint of these publications going down that road. It's the same with the radio stations with Michael Stewart and BT Sport. I mean, some of their coverage in the last week or two has been so pro-Celtic. It's unbelievable. It's actually because they've lost the Scottish football contract, it's like they've been able to fling off their neutral black jacket and put on their hoops to bring you what the coverage they actually wanted to bring in the first place. So it's kind of sad and pretty laughable, all things considered.
Stevie, as I said earlier on, sort of when I was introducing the topic, when I went to do my research for the agenda tonight, the article had already been removed. Now, as I said earlier, that seems like yet another embarrassment for the Daily Record and the Sunday Mail. on the back of the issue with Club 1872 last week. Now, I mean, for us, I mean, as Rangers supporters, we will view it as an embarrassment. But do you think there's maybe an opportunity here, or it's maybe the case that the Sunday Mail and the Daily Record know that these articles aren't going to last very long, but if they throw enough mud, then it sticks, and that it's just mischief making? You know, it seems, given what happened last week with Club 1872, you would think the Sunday Mail and the Daily Record would be careful about what they were publishing about Rangers Football Club, but it seems to have went totally the other way today. As we said, they brought in David Lowe to make discussions on Rangers finances. Part of me feels that's deliberate, and is that how it feels to you?
Yeah, I mean, of course it is deliberate. Colin, like you say, they now know that they're doubling down, in my opinion. And the funny thing about the Daily Record and the Sunday Mail is they were the first to whinge during the week that they didn't get access to Ianis Hagi when he signed, and they wanted interviews and everything else. And those days are over now. If you write for these publications, no matter who you are, if you're Rangers friendly or anything else, you're now blacklisted, so to speak. Rangers aren't interested in dealing with the Daily Record or the Sunday Mail, the Sun, these publications that print lies and hurt us. And the fact that they had, their big sensational Sunday article that was within a few hours pulled is embarrassing to them, but they won't care because it's job done. Rangers fans all around Scotland and Britain or whatever need to really realise now that this has gone beyond, petty stuff. This is now lies. It's now an agenda, and we need to stop supporting the Daily Record, the Sunday Mail, and the publications that hurt us. Don't buy it, don't click it, don't share it. And it's now more vitally important than ever. I mean, that article this morning was something that you would find on a Sevco blog. It was that bad. And it was easily disproved within, I seen 3, 4, 5 things that I could have disproved within just looking at it. He said that there was no down payment from Castor to Rangers and things like that. And we had Tom Beahon on the Gersnet Four Lads podcast just a couple of weeks ago, and he sat and he told us all that £3 million had already been paid to the club. Now, if you're an editor of a publication and you've got a very important thing like that going out, and it's going to get, that it's going to get lots of publicity, you're going to make sure it's right, unless that you have an agenda that you want to stick to. And it's clearly the agenda has always been on Rangers finances and everything else, and they can't accept that we're in a healthy position in the coming weeks with the commercial moves that Rangers will make under James Bisgrove. They'll see how stupid their viewpoint and stance has been, but it's too late now. They're entrenched in it, and it's gone too far. Rangers fans, as I said, going back to it, it's not meant to be patronising or meant to lecture people. It's just, it needs now to be taken very seriously. We cannot support these publications. If you're supporting them, you're hurting the club because they hate us, they're lying about us, and people need to wake up to it now. Don't support them. Don't do anything that's going to encourage them to do what they're doing. Publication numbers are coming down, and we need to now stick to our own and not these people.
I'll stick with you now, Stephen. On some of the claims in that article. Now, I think some of it came from a report, and there was some of it you thought, I could maybe see something in that, because I think all football clubs are in a precarious position at the moment. Given the current situation, no football, no match day revenue, all that kind of a thing. Now, I think the report which David Lowe was sort of citing or quoting to support his claims, he was saying that Rangers are overly reliant on match day revenue. Now, part of me thinks that could be the case, because obviously we've had the situation with Sports Direct and Mike Ashley. Recovering from the situation in 2012, we're not back to where we were in terms of getting all those revenue streams up and running. It seems that that's moving on now. But is there maybe something in that the club are at the moment more reliant on matchday revenue than they should be?
Well, yes and no, because the way it was written to spin everything sounding negative with no balance. You could have said that, for example, Rangers took in nearly 4 million of merchandise during that time, but 3.6 million was offset against battling sports director Mike Ashley. So that's why that percentage was so low. In terms of spinning that, it works perfectly for the agenda of the article. Rangers are so high in percentage of gate receipts and match day income because the TV deals are so poor. So if we looked at it the other way, for a league that we perform in and live in that doesn't have a sponsor, that isn't Rangers doing. So Rangers have to maximise their income. Now, as I went back and said before, in the coming weeks and months or whatever, you'll see new commercial things coming through that will be highly profitable for the club. They've already made £3 million of revenue from the retail and kit deal, with the potential of that to go as high as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million, according to the owner of the co-owner or co-founder of Castor, Tom Beahon. So these things are all new revenue streams for us, Colin, in terms of this is going to be money that we didn't have last year. So that article and the way it's spun isn't looking at the moves that we're now currently making. So yes, we might be that percentages and that article might be true in terms of looking at it, but we're making inroads into other departments that is hopefully going to shorten this or shorten the shortfall that we might have in terms of not having match day revenue. COVID-19 is completely uncharted territory for everyone in terms of the club are having to kind of bridge that and do things. But Rangers aren't immune to it. We aren't, everything isn't rosy, it isn't all hunky-dory and let's just stick our fingers in our ears. We should be concerned, we should watch what the board are doing. But I don't for one second think that things like the share issue and investment are suddenly just not going to happen anymore. I simply just think that it'll take a wee bit longer. If we're spending 3 million in Hagi and other things that you'll see in coming weeks, then I don't think there's any need for us to be concerned about the direction we're going in financially, and thinking that at the board, which include a lot of very healthy businessmen, would put it at risk. There was a quote this morning that said that Celtic should be grateful that they have Dermot Desmond and one, multi-millionaire to steady them through this phase and things like that. Well, Rangers have many. Rangers have a whole boardroom full of them, and they've got new investors coming. So it's how you spin an article and how you spin it to sound. And that article only had one thought in mind, and that was to make us sound bad and to make us sound at risk. So I'm not saying to ignore it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't take every point in board. But if you're going to argue that we are too reliant on that, then you need to look at the other factors involved in it also. It was up at 67%. I think we rely on income of that, but that's because other things, like I've talked about, is so low. So put it in context and put it with balance, and it wouldn't be as bleak as what they're trying to spin it in, is my point.
Stuart, coming back to you, there was a couple of things I read. I think the Sun have picked up the story. I managed to get a few of the quotes of what he said in the Sun, and I actually hate using them as well. I hate using any of the sort of red tops, but it was the only way I could find something for tonight's agenda. There was also a comment from that I found slightly obscure and a wee bit contradictory. Now, Stephen there has pointed out, that Castori have already provided £3 million to Rangers. We have had that advance. Now, David Lowe claimed that Celtic will receive a huge advance from Adidas and Rangers won't receive anything from Castori. Now, there's 2 points here. Stephen's already covered one by saying we have received that £3 million. The other one is, I find it incredulous that a major sort of publication like the Sunday Mail or the Daily Record took what David Lowe said about Adidas and never questioned it, because as people know, Adidas have had their own financial woes through this current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. They've received a £1 million government bailout recently. and they've been late with payments to clubs that they have kit deals with, including Flamengo. So for David Lowe to sit there and say, well, Celtic will get a huge advance from Adidas because Adidas are an established brand and Rangers won't get anything, when one, Rangers have already received 3 million, and two, Adidas are not in the best financial health at the moment, and other clubs have been missed out with their payments. How a paper couldn't question that, I find staggering. Is that how you viewed it at the time as well, that was quite a contradictory statement?
Of course it is, but I mean, Stevie was right in what he said. It's a spinning exercise. Celtic are desperate to get the league started again, because they need money just as much as we do, and they need to get European secure Champions League qualification. If we don't get playing again soon, their chances of qualifying for the Champions League group stage reduce substantially. And it's big money that they need, because the problem they've got is that they need, like us, they need to sell players, and the transfer market is, well, it's to say it's slow is an understatement. So the kind of money that we're talking about for Rodson Edwards and such like earlier in the year, your 40 millions and 30 millions, and the same goes for us in terms of Morelos and stuff like that. You're going to struggle to achieve that, certainly in the short term. Maybe this time next year they might pick up again. I'm sure it will, but in the meantime, Celtic want to get stories out there to make us look bad, to get the other teams and other clubs in Scotland on their side, other decision makers, so that they think Rangers are in trouble. We have to believe everything Celtic say. Everything's rosy in their garden, when it isn't. I mean, Celtic are quite comfortable at the minute. I mean, they've had a free run at Scottish football for the last 9 years now. So in terms of finances, I'd say they're pretty comfortable. Are they as comfortable as they claim in their accounts? I'm not so sure. And as Dermot Desmond is great a character as Lowe likes to profess, again, I'm not so sure. I mean, he's appealing a decision just now in the courts. So I think he's one of the banks is a minority investor and was fined £80 million a couple of years ago, and they're appealing that in court for money laundering. So there's issues ongoing for Celtic. They've got issues clearly with the child abuse stuff over the last 5 decades. It's not something I'm really willing to spend a lot of time on this podcast or my website. I don't think it's something that we should be looking to score points on. However, it is a major problem, and it's something that the media should be talking about. It's something Celtic don't want to talk about, and it's something that is going to cost them a lot of money, and again, probably in the medium term. So, as I say, Celtic need money as much as we do. There isn't any two ways about that. And so to read stories like this in the newspaper to suggest that one club is struggling and the other isn't struggling is just mischief-making. Ewan Graham is good at that. David Lowe is making a career out of that, and it's probably one of the main reasons why he's, as I say, he was announced as chair at the Celtic Trust. I think it was in January of this year. And it's just bizarre that they think that we're buttoned up the back, that we're going to sit there and think, oh no, what's going on here? Our team is on the brink of another administration, when it just isn't true. I mean, the retail stuff, as Stevie mentioned, with Castor is excellent. We've got the new membership scheme, which has already brought in up to £1 million, which is good going. I'm pretty sure renewals, despite what's happening with the pandemic, will be as good as last year once we get through to the end of June. I don't see a problem. They've got share issues coming, new investors. I'm pretty confident in Rangers' financial status at the minute. And to be honest, the last people I need to be lectured by it is Ewan Graham and David Lowe.
Stevie, you kind of alluded to this earlier on. You know, one of the quotes from David Lowe was, I've got it here: Celtic fans regularly criticise major shareholder Dermot Desmond, but they should be careful what they wish for. There's never been a better time for any club to have a genuine billionaire on hand. Now, you've pointed out that, you know, Rangers also have, you know, people within the boardroom that have money and are prepared to invest. However, the thing that I found strange in that comment from David Lowe is that certainly some of his comments on Twitter and some of his followers and various other people, including even Michael Stewart recently, you know, when Rangers announced the Hagi deal, it was, where's the money coming from? And all these claims of, you know, spending out with our means and, you know, it's financial doping and all that kind of thing. Now that seemed, again, a strange comment that no one would pick up on from the Sunday Mail or Daily Record. He's basically saying if if Celtic are struggling financially, he'll cover the shortfall. Now, this is the very thing that Rangers have faced accusations of financial doping over the last couple of years, when the current board members have been providing soft loans, and that'll be turned into shares further down the line and all that kind of thing. And yet he's basically saying, well, we've got a billionaire, so Celtic fans should be okay, because if we run out of money, he'll plug the gap. It seems incredulous to me that Celtic fans don't see, and the wider Scottish footballing community, including people in the media, don't see how contradictory and hypocritical that comment is.
Yeah, but it's not surprising, is it? Because this is the sort of nonsense that we've faced now for several years. And it's the story that they want to do that harms our business. And this is, this isn't surprising. It happens. We see a double standard in reporting for everything that involves us. And it's a free-for-all on our club and on our supporters. But I will say one thing, Colin, I don't really want to spend too much time on this guy, David Lowe, because he is an absolute moon-howling cretin, and he's on his Twitter calling everybody Huns and all that. And I've got no time for people like this. I'm not interested. And all I would say is that they've given him a platform which was wrong, and they've ended up pulling it within hours because he talks nonsense. So I'm not really willing to spend much more time on that. But what I would say is, and what I am proud of, is within hours of that article going up, fan media had ripped it to bits and forced it coming down. And that's the future for us now. Whether it's ourselves at Four Lads of the Dream, whether it's Gersnet, whether it's Heart and Hand, that is where we are now. And within a couple of hours, Club 1872 had chased it, and it had all been down. That is it now for Rangers fans. It has to be a line in the sand. If you look at this guy being given that platform, and I'll repeat it again, it's not meaning to be patronising or anything like that, Colin, and it's not meaning to disregard your question or whatever. I'm just at the point now where, for me, they are happy for this agenda to go forward. They're not interested in how bad it looks. The point you make is absolutely correct. Of course it is, but they're not interested in that, because this is Rangers and they want to paint us in a bad light, and certain members of the media can't wait for it to be discussed, and they live for these conversations, and I've got no time for them. I've got no time for these publications. I had journalists from the Daily Record, because I picked up on something that Gavin Berry said last weekend, telling me that Gavin Berry was a great guy, and the Daily Record don't have an agenda and everything else, and I told them I wasn't interested. And I'll say the same thing here. You're either for Rangers or you're against us. And if you're a Rangers fan working for these publications now, you won't get to deal with Rangers. It's as simple as that. People like the Record, the Sunday Mail, the Sun and things like that aren't welcome anymore. Rangers PR is going to be a lot more different. People have already seen it. Hagi with Heart and Hand was groundbreaking. Ourselves at Four Lads Gersnet, we'll get our chance to interview new signings and things like that, and that's the way it is now. When football does restart, we've been promised access to the first team squad and things like that the press and things won't get now. So I've as far as this article goes this morning, it's the only thing that we should do with it as a support is laugh at it. It was ridiculed. It was taken down within hours. They don't see how condescending it is, Colin. They're not interested in it because they have an agenda against us. It's tiresome. It's pathetic. I'm sure that yourself and Stuart, sick of it coming up. We did the best thing on Gersnet by banning it. I would encourage everybody just to do the same. And it isn't me being patronising or dismissive. It just needs to be a concerted effort now by the Rangers support. Support your fan media. Don't give your time to these publications that give a platform to people like that this morning.
Sure, on that issue of sort of fan-led media, and obviously we're part of that, doing the pod and the Gersnet website. Stevie's got his blog, he's got his separate podcast. You've got Heart and Hand, you've got a few others out there that have really come on leaps and bounds over the last few years. I'm seeing a lot of comments on Twitter and social media at the moment saying, sort of echoing what Stevie's just said there now, that's the way forward. I kind of agree and disagree with that. I mean, I agree with Rangers and Rangers supporters' stance on publications like the Daily Record and the Sunday Mail, and it actually saddens me that it's got to that stage, because I think what you said earlier on, Stuart, was right. You know, if we have a healthy media and a good relationship with the media, and you get top quality journalism, then that's a better thing, because you know the media are not totally connected to the club and are maybe in a good position to question things. That's my one fear about fan-led media, and I'm not having a go at anyone that's gone down this road at all. And I think a lot of the stuff that's happened recently has been brilliant. However, could that lead to problems further down the road if various like ourselves, say, or Stevie, or Hat in Hand, or We Are the People podcast, or any podcast, if we start getting too close to the club, does that maybe then compromises in terms of being able to question the club? You know, at the moment, it's a good thing that fan-led media is getting access to all these things, but is this maybe creating problems further down the line?
Possibly. I think it's a fair question to ask. At the same time, I've known Stevie for a while now. I know Davey at Heart and Hand. I've known him for a long time. Big Market, follow. These are all credible people who have all in the past stood up, myself included, to criticise the club when need be. So I don't think there's any of us that would take a player interview or a match ticket or a bit of sponsorship here or there to back down on something we think is wrong. I mean, there's too much happened at Rangers in the last 10 to 15 years to take things at face value. And I don't think any Rangers fan would or does do that nowadays. And I think it's important that we take the mainstream media to account, like we have done today, when they make deliberate or non-deliberate mistakes, you get it corrected. And I would say the same for us. If I say something or write something on my website and I'll get it wrong, tell us. Recently, I mean, there was one chap a bit critical of the fact that we've been carrying adverts for season ticket renewals. That's fair enough. I reckon we wouldn't be too critical of the club on, for example, the manager scheme. I'm quite happy to have anybody on the podcast or write on my website to criticise, as long as it's constructive. So, yeah, the club have got to be careful. You don't want to have everything as yes, sir, two bags full, sir. You know, you have to have criticism. But I'm also fairly confident, as I mentioned at the start, that we have people that have proven themselves over the years to be critical where required and to be constructive where required. And I'm hoping that the club will recognise that. We've got experienced people working. I mean, guys like Douglas Park has been involved with Rangers for the better part of 40, 50 years. So this guy knows, and his son knows exactly what fan media is like. Graham's grew up around part of it. So you're right. That we have to be careful, but at the same time, I'm more than confident that we will be, and that we'll be held to account ourselves if we're not careful.
Colin, can I just quickly say something on that in terms of when we were first kind of in discussions with the club with that, the first thing I said to the club was, one, I don't want anything for this. I'm not interested in taking any sort of payment or any like hospitality days or whatever else. Anything I've had, I've maybe had of sponsors, which is involved hosting competitions or anything. I've never taken anything from Rangers directly, and I won't. The second thing I said to them was that this absolutely cannot stop me from being critical. You will have read blogs and heard on podcasts before that we have criticised where we think is necessary, and that for me won't and shouldn't stop. And that was made perfectly clear to the club right at the very start. And it was all I said to them, and I'm not the only one that said to them, this can't be a case of, you know, Stevie, if you want access to speak to Gerrard on Wednesday, then you can't criticise us. It's not happening. The club know where we stand. Club know where I stand, rather. I can't speak for anyone else, although I know that is a position. But for myself, it's not going to be a case of everything's all sweetness and light. It might mean that certain things that I do in terms of speculation and signings and things are different, but that comes with being more directly involved, I suppose. However, in terms of not being able to criticise or question the club are well aware that that won't stop. I think in the 2 and a bit years that I've done the blog, I have been fair and criticised and praised when necessary. But for those listening and those that will listening, I'd like to just state that for a fact that that's not going to change. The club will be held accountable when I feel necessary, as I have done, and I think that that's clear for all of us that have been given this opportunity by the club.
I think I should point out that I'm not in any way against fan-led media, because at the end of the day I'm part of it, and I have been part of it for a while. I've written for Follow in the past. I've written for the We Are People magazine, and I've done bits and bobs during my time, and I've enjoyed it, and I think it's a great thing that fan-led media is out there. I think the quality of it has been high, and I'm not just talking about Rangers. Some of the other podcasts with other clubs are of a high standard. The content is excellent in a lot of them, and in some ways they're leading the way. I mean, obviously around Rangers, you have to say that Heart and Hand are leading the way. Some of the stuff that they've done has been excellent over the years. However, I think my fears are based on my own experience when I was writing for the Rangers News. Now, I was writing from the Rangers News from a supporter's perspective. Now, at the time, Colin Glass, who was part of the sort of original Rangers Supporters Trust, got in touch with me, and we had a wee chat. He took me out for lunch one day and explained everything they were doing. Now, I'd already become a member of the Rangers Supporters Trust, and so I said to him, right, I'll do a wee piece sort of publicising what it is you're doing. And the club, when I submitted my article, the editor, Lindsay Herring, came back almost straight away, said there's absolutely no way that I can sanction this because it's kind of attacking David Murray. And that was kind of my first experience of the politics that's involved between supporters and their clubs. I didn't see anything wrong with what I'd written. I didn't think it was attacking David Murray as such. It was just questioning where the club was going, but there was absolutely no way that was going to be included in an official club publication, even although my column was a fan-led column, and it had a disclaimer on it saying this does not represent the views of Rangers Football Club. So I think that's maybe where my foundations for fear is. I'm not questioning the integrity of anyone that's involved in fan media at the moment. I just fear that as relationships become cosier down the years, that it might create problems. But that said, I don't think you can do anything but doff your hat to some of the stuff that's happening at the moment. Some of the stuff that you've done, Stevie, with Four Lads, and some of the interviews, Heart and Hand as well. Some of the stuff that's been done so far has been brilliant. I just think it needs to stay on the right side of the fence as we move forward. Guys, the other thing coming out from this week, moving on from David Lowe and his cervical-itis, we sort of touched on it last week's show, and it was confirmed this week. Hagi, his deal went from a loan deal to a permanent deal. Stuart, do you feel like this is a good move for Rangers?
In a word, yes. To get him for, I think they're talking around about £2.5-3 million, I think is a really good deal. This guy's got a brand about him. More importantly, he's obviously a good player. I think he showed enough in his few months at the club before the pandemic blew up, that he's a very talented young man. And this was when we were playing poorly. And I think he was also, to a certain extent, on occasion, played out of position. I'd like to think that the player will know a bit more about the club now, know a bit more about the Scottish game. The same will go for the manager, and the other players at the club will know his game a bit better and know exactly how to get the best from him. And I don't see any downsides to this at all. Clearly, it's a lot of money in uncertain times. I guess if you have got £3 million in from Castor and spent it on Hagi right away, then we've not lost out anywhere, because it was money we weren't getting last season. So that's one way of looking at it. Obviously, the way the deal will be structured, there'll be certain payments over the next 4 years anyway. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. And I do also think that he's another player that if he does choose to move on at some point, that we should be able to make a healthy profit on. He's only 21. He's played at a decent level now for a good few years. Rangers can only improve his game. It's got to be physical. It's got to be played at pace, and our fans are fickle and demanding. So it's a win-win for all parties as far as I'm concerned. I'm really looking forward to him coming back when we start the football again.
Stevie, going back to the mainstream media, there's been some commentators in there, sort of usual suspects, and a couple of ex-Rangers players as well, have questioned the fee. How do you feel about the fee? Do you feel it's excessive, especially given the current situation? You know, as Stuart alluded to earlier on, you know, and I read a piece today that, you know, an agent saying that players will have to become a wee bit more realistic when it comes to wage negotiations and stuff like that, because the whole market is going to depress for a while. So given that, does the fee seem excessive, or are you quite happy with it?
No, the fee's spot on. You're buying somebody that undoubtedly teams from Italy and other places, even England, who wanted him, would have gladly paid 7-8 million for. So 3 million, yeah, is a lot of money for us. Just to kind of say one point, it's 3 million over 3 years. $1 million's already been paid up. So if you look at it in terms of the My Jers scheme, which is now at 10,000, if we can get that up to targeted numbers of around 20,000 and earn the club £1 million, that £1 million has paid for Ianis Hagi and will do over the next 3 years, which is the whole point in the My Jers scheme. So you look at it in that content, then it's a tremendous deal for us. We're not going to lose money on this boy, even if he doesn't perform, which I think is unrealistic. I think this boy will be in a brilliant place because he's spent some months here. And not only has he spent some months here, not only has he spent some months here, he spent some months in a time where Rangers weren't functioning properly. So you imagine sticking this boy in a team that is functioning properly and he can get into the positions we know he can to hurt teams. It's all about getting the best out of him. I think he's a cracking player. I think he's a cracking signing. I'm very excited that he's here. I'm very positive that he's here. And to me, it's one of those ones that's a no-brainer. I thought it was a no-brainer to spend 4 and a bit million on him. So to find out that we've negotiated that lower to 3 million is an incredible deal. I think that Ross Wilson has already shown in the short time that he's been with us, even with the guys who left in January with sell-on clauses for younger players, buyback fees, etc., that he knows exactly what he's doing. I'm excited about the players that we're going to bring in. I'm excited about Ianis Hagi. And as for other people, Colin, the likes of Kenny Miller on Sports Sound and everything else, I couldn't care less what these guys think. And that's no disrespect. Kenny Miller was a great player for us, but he's got a wee bit of the Barry Ferguson syndrome when he speaks in the media. They're obviously trying to find their way and trying to be to find their niche in the media, and that's fine. But I've got no interest in what these guys are saying. My only interest is in what we are doing. Ianis Hagi will be a cracking player for us. 3 million's a snip, in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of Rangers fans feel the same. He's an international brand name. His face is on Pepsi Max cans, for goodness sake. You know, this is the level of kind of brand exposure. His dad was one of the most famous players in the world. I'd be really surprised if Rangers don't give him the number 10 jersey. I think that's one of these ones that is an obvious marketing ploy. And I think it will pay for itself. I really do. I think, as I said, without waffling further on, I'm excited about it. It is a no-brainer for me. And I'll back Hagi to get 15 goals next season.
Sure. Stephen alluded there to Ross Wilson. We spoke last week on the show about, you know, the players that were going out the door. Obviously, players like Andy Halliday, Flanagan, Wes, and a few others. Is this now a sign, the first sort of signs of Ross Wilson really picking up his role? You know, this is probably the first full season he's going to get a crack at it. You know, he's starting, it's almost like a pre-season for him. He's there in the summer to plan ahead for the season. You know, he's got players out the door. He's secured Hagi. Is this him now, you know, picking up and motoring on? And is this a sign of further things to come from him?
Yeah, you've got to assume that. I feel a bit sorry for the guy in terms of obviously what's happening with the pandemic, the market's slow in terms of getting players in and out, or certainly achieving fees for players. I mean, I think in normal circumstances, guys, we could have maybe got rid of Wes before now for money. We might have extended his contract even, same with Flanagan. They might well have looked at that, but I think it makes more sense just now if guys' contracts are finished, just to let them go if they're on decent money, because guys that before you might have thought, well, we could get a decent six-figure fee or maybe a million or two. It's just not going to happen now. It is a big summer for Wilson, though, because, I mean, that's 4 players that left last week. And I think we've got a first-team squad around about 26. You got lost Canberra as well, back to Hibs, who was playing fairly regularly towards the end of the season. We've only brought Hagi in so far. I mean, we're obviously going to bring more people in, but I think we all know that our squad needs to be improved for next season. I mean, if the pandemic had happened around about the winter break, we'd have had different opinions on where we stood. But once again, it seems a long time ago now, but we fell apart really quite badly in the new year, and that's something that the manager first and foremost, the players themselves, and Ross Wilson has to address in terms of what other players do we move on, and what other players do we get in. I mean, Halliday and Flanagan have gone, so we've only left with Barisic at left back. On the right hand side, you've only really got Tav and Polster. I mean, and I don't think the manager was ever really overly keen on Polster, but I mean, the guy did quite well towards the end of the sort of pre-pandemic season. So a left back has to be a priority. So that there's at least one player. Another goalkeeper has to come in. McGregor is fantastic, but how many more years can we realistically look to get from him? Andy Firth, I'm not convinced about. Robbie McCrory, I like the look of, but he's still pretty young. So we need another goalkeeper. Depending on what happens with Canberra, we need another striker. So there's a lot of work for Wilson to do in the summer. It's exactly how he'll be tested as to see how he does there, because as I say, if we didn't bring in the right players, then we'll struggle again to challenge for the title.
Stephen, on the title and on the season, news came out on Friday there that there was a meeting between the SPFL board and Joe Fitzpatrick, and they've given a date for the top flight clubs, the Premiership clubs, to be back training on the 11th of June for a 1st of August start. Now, it's maybe just me, I don't know, it just seems to me that this feels all a bit rushed. I mean, I know the Bundesliga is back up and running, the green lights happened down south for the Premiership to finish the last season, so Liverpool will actually win their title rather than being awarded it, as was the case up here. But I mean, given the current situation, I mean, I know we've come out one phase of lockdown, but it still seems to me that, big crowds and all that at big events is some way off. I mean, how realistic is a 1st of August start? Because I've seen worries about clubs being able to afford testing and all that kind of a thing. Is this pie in the sky, or is there a realistic chance that we'll kick off again in August?
Well, whether it's realistic or not, Colin, I think if anything, in the last couple of weeks or months has told us that if the SPFL want something to happen and they're being driven by other means, then they will make it happen. So just like awarding a title and finishing a league when nobody else in Europe was kind of looking at it that way, that's the way they wanted it, so they done it. So if they want August the 1st as their start date, that's what we're going towards. I don't think realistically we'll see a full stadium until next year, unless there's a cure, which obviously we all hope there will be. But I just don't see it in terms of this league. I'm just taking it as a go that we will be back, because it doesn't really matter. This is proven in the last couple of months. It doesn't really matter what the players want. They wanted reconstruction, and nobody cares what they think. I mean, it's only the players that are in the league. The fans didn't want leagues stopped and titles handed out and everything else. Well, some fans did, but the majority didn't. So if the SPFL have decided this is when we're going, this is when we're going, Colin, and it's proven now that there's nothing that we can really do about it but chip away, expose them for what they are, and try and enforce change, which was always going to be a long-term strategy. It was always going to be a long-term thing. I warned everybody when I wrote about it that it was a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm taking it as read as being August the 1st is when we'll be back. I know that Rangers have already kind of implemented. I think the 15th of June was when we had our start date. That may change a couple of days because it's now been granted as the 11th. But I know that some of the local lads have already been up at Rangers Training Centre doing double sessions and things, and other players that have been abroad that will all return for that in time. So I'm taking it as we're going for it, Colin. Is it realistic? It doesn't really matter if it's realistic, in my opinion. If the SPFL want their way, they'll get it. I do think it is what will happen, whether it's feasible or not. Unfortunately, I've got to the bit where I'm a wee bit now where it doesn't really matter. If they decide, then that's what's happening. Until we force change, we're not going to get a level playing field at that levels, I'm afraid. So yeah, I mean, all go ahead for August the 1st. Why they're desperate to get it all up and restarted? Maybe what happens if Hearts, for example, were to take them to court, that might be why they're wanting to get to that stage and fixtures out and things like that. Who knows? I'm sure it'll be for their own agenda anyway.
Sure. I mean, the 11th of June for pre-season training. Again, looking at it, normally if the players would normally come back sort of late June, early July. Well, actually, no, they would probably come back about the same time, mid-June. But part of that process would be things like, pre-season friendlies, tours, all that kind of a thing. Now, given that the social distancing is still an issue, and I'm assuming that the training, when we kick off and we start training on the 11th of June, it will be as what it is in England at the moment, and the social distancing aspect is very much part of it. How do you get yourself into a situation where players are match fit to go on the 1st of August? Given that we don't know how this is going to go, and given how people, as I said earlier on, it seems like people have almost thought, well, that's it, lockdown's over. And you've seen some of the images of beaches and parks and everyone's out. And I've heard people saying, people in high places, that they fear a sort of second wave of this virus coming back. I mean, for Steven Gerrard and for the club, and for all clubs essentially, but we'll focus on Rangers because that's our club. How can they plan for that? Come back to the 11th of June for a 1st of August start when they can't organise any pre-season friendlies, and it could be curtailed at any moment. The brakes could be put on at any moment.
With great difficulty. I think, Colin, it's very tough. I didn't envy anybody involved in football, even those on the SPFL board, in terms of planning for what there has to be a variety of eventualities. A second wave is definitely one of them, but first and foremost, it has to be those involved's health. I mean, players' health. We all have our own personal issues. Football players and managers and staff around the club, they're no different for the rest of us in that respect. So we have to be looking after them. Rangers have a duty of care, their employees. So I think certainly for the first few weeks, I don't think there's going to be a lot of contact. And in some respects, pre-season training is different in any case, because the first week or two is going to be a lot of running anyway and a lot of recovery. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to get around bringing the football into the training. That'll be, again, with difficulty, but it can be done. What worries me is getting people match fit and knowing how they can react and how they can play on the field of play when we actually get back into competitive action, because it's most likely that Rangers are going to have a game before anybody else, because chances are we're going to be playing the second leg of the Leverkusen game at any point over the next 4 to 6 weeks. So if we do need our players back and fit, if we want, I mean, the chances of us coming back in that tie is very low, of course, but there's not to say that we can't do it. I mean, Leverkusen they've got to have a head start on us with German football back in action, but as a layman, I'm not exactly sure how Rangers are doing their planning. They've been doing a lot of these webinars with their players, which is good. I'm sure they're in contact with them in terms of their diet and their overall general fitness. The players are professionals; they're earning a lot of money, so I'd expect all that report back to talking how the next week or two that they'll all be fit and ready to go. But as I say, football's going to be very different, not just on the park, but off the park for those of us that want to go to games and buy season tickets. I mean, how possible is that going to be? How's the structure of the league going to be put together? Is it going to be 12 teams, 14, 10? Is there only going to be one top division of 16? How many games? Are we going to play all our games? There's only going to be half as many games. There's too many questions just now, and I don't think any of us can really give a really in-depth answer. And I certainly don't think or trust the guys at the SPFL, just as Stevie talked about a few minutes ago, in terms of doing it for any sort of benefit towards Rangers. So I think we can only take HD as it comes. We're all doing that ourselves, and Rangers will have to do the same. And I think in terms of supporters, we're just going to have to be patient in terms of how the players perform and give them time to get up and running.
Stevie, one of the things through that whole period of 2-3 weeks ago when we had the farce with the vote and all the rest of it, through that whole period, Celtic were very very quiet. No statements, nothing to say. Recently, that's changed. They've been very vocal recently, and towards the end of last week, they were demanding that the SPFL issue a fixture list as soon as possible. Now, again, that seemed like a strange statement for me, and I was trying to get my head around why they would be doing it. Lots of people speculating on social media that Celtic are going to try and reverse the first Old Firm game of the season. It's scheduled to be at Ibrox. Do you think there's anything in that? And if not, why do you think Celtic are demanding that the SPFL provide a fixture list ASAP?
I honestly don't know what goes through their mind. I'm not really interested, in all honesty. It could be a number of things, Colin. They'll have a reason, no doubt, that won't be preferable to us. I can't even remember who was due. I thought it was them that was due up with the first Old Firm at home. So I would have just thought it was most likely that we'd both get one Old Firm at each stadium behind closed doors, and we'd go from there. But I mean, I don't think we can even know what goes on with them. I'm not really. I don't mean to sound bad, Colin, or dismiss your question, but I couldn't really care less why they're doing it. I don't pay any attention. They'll have some reason, no doubt. It'll be something to do with money or getting the fixtures on. Is it something to do with Hearts possibly challenging? And I just don't know. I find it very difficult to care in terms of what goes on at Celtic, and that's not meaning to sound disrespectful or bad. I've just got no interest. I'm only interested in Rangers. With regards to what happens and everything else, it's do you ever feel that way, that you're just kind of tired of all the discussion surrounding it and the SPFL? And I'm bored of it now. The whole thing is just been rotten to the core over the last couple of months, and it's sickened me. There's been no intention of ever doing anything fairly in my book. I just hope that we as a club, as you said, and something we touched upon earlier, Rangers maybe got away with it a wee bit because we were from Christmas time and that we were absolutely hopeless. So certain players and maybe even the management have got away from that kind of thing. We could have turned it around, absolutely we could have. But my intention now, and what I'm trying to focus on is making sure that when we do get back to training, we hit the ground running, and we play like we should and like we can, Colin, because we need to be a whole lot better. We need to be ready. We need to get our finger out, and we need to have a sustainable challenge this year. That's what I'm looking for. Otherwise, we're kind of staring down the barrel of possibly new management and things like that, mate. So very conscious of time. Waffled on probably too long, but that's where I am with it, buddy. And it's not mean to dismiss your question, but I don't really care about anything they do.
Honestly, Stevie, I don't mind you dismissing a question that involves Celtic, not at all. Stuart, final question to yourself. Obviously, the SPFL board met to discuss when football come back. Met with Joe Fitzpatrick, MSP, on Friday. Now, the interesting thing about this was Peter Law was also present at the meeting and was also involved in discussions. again, given everything that's happened over the past few weeks, this is just another thing that makes you think, well, why is he there? Well, if he's not part of the SPFL board, why is he at that meeting, and why does he have to be there? And I also noticed, I was reading an article on the Ann Budge situation, and Doncaster had said, I had a very interesting meeting with the chairman of another club, and you're thinking, well, why is there another club there, and why are you not mentioning who that club is? And it's all this kind of cloak and dagger stuff. But going back to my main question, why was Peter Lawwell allowed to be at that meeting, and why is his influence so strong in the Scottish game at the moment? It just seems to me, if anything's happening, he has to have his say.
Peter Lawwell runs Scottish football. I mean, it's as simple as that. He's there to babysit Neil Doncaster, who's had a torrid time of it. Stevie's right. I think we're all tired of the SPFL crap for the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks. However, these people want us to be tired of it. They want us to turn our attentions to other things. They want to get away with what was, I'll say, bordering on corruption in terms of the vote that went on there. Everybody and their dog knows that what happened 8 weeks ago was wrong. And when you've got Tom English saying it as such, then that says a lot for me. So Lawwell at that point didn't say anything for about 6 weeks. Neither did Celtic, quite rightly, because you didn't need to get involved. They've got other people to do their dirty work for them. However, the SPFL made a lot of mistakes. Doncaster made mistakes. McLaren made mistakes. There's other guys on the SPFL board that clearly showed they were out their depth. So that's why you've seen Peter Lawwell appear again. In some respects, if we're kind, Celtic are the champions of Scotland and have been now for 9 years or 8.5 years, or however you want to highlight that. So, and I think normally, I can't remember if it's every year or every second year, Rangers and Celtic turn about in terms of have a representative on the SPFL board, and obviously Stuart Robertson's been on the board now for the last year or two, so it's probably Celtic's turn. So there's probably a case of, if we're being kind, that there has to be a handover period, and Celtic are entitled to be at that table. So if the less paranoid amongst us might take that avenue of thinking. But I'll go back to my first sentence. He runs Scottish football. I think everybody knows that. So that's why he's present, and he's just shown his that position of strength that he's in by taking control of these situations in the last week or two.
Right, guys, one last question, one quick one. I know we've slightly overrun, but I thought we would finish on talking about Rangers, because I think Stevie's right. We've kind of alluded to Celtic a wee bit too much tonight. When the football does come back, it's came back obviously in Germany recently, and it's been behind closed doors. So there's every possibility that come the 1st of August, that's how it'll be. I don't know if any of you two have watched the Bundesliga since it's come back. I have to admit, I struggled with it, and I asked myself the question: if it was Rangers playing, would it draw me in more? And I have to say, I don't know. Maybe it will just click in, that feeling that this is Rangers and I want to watch it. But hearing the players, shouting and just no atmosphere, it struggled to hold my attention, I must admit. So I'll quickly come to you, Stevie. How do you feel behind closed doors? I know it won't be the same, but will it still be enough to pull you in?
Absolutely. It won't be the same, Colin, you're right. I'll miss it. I'll miss the match day experience. I'll miss the laugh with the boys around me waiting, and the boys there. I'll miss everything. I'll miss the crowd shouts and all that sort of stuff. But you know what? I'll miss Rangers more. So to be able to see them in any sort of capacity, I'm looking forward to it. I'm focused now on what I said before. I just want us to come back and just hit the ground running and show what we're capable of now, Colin.
What about you, Stuart? Closed doors, will it dilute your passion for the game?
I think it dilute anybody's passion. However, it won't dilute my passion for Rangers. So I can't watch any football other than Rangers games with any real passion nowadays. I mean, when I was younger, I liked Liverpool. I was a big fan of Dalglish when I was and just a toddler. For that reason, that's why I like Liverpool. Then I grew into Rangers. I loved Scotland at that time. I mean, we all loved the Rangers players play for Scotland, and Scotland qualifying for World Cups and European Championships and what have you. But Rangers are main love, and I think we're all desperate to get back to Ibrox as soon as we can. I think that's going to take a bit longer than any of us would have hoped or probably foreseen a few months ago. So if the second best is having to settle for them on the telly with no fans at Ibrox, then so be it. I'm not going to pretend that it'll be difficult to watch. It will be, but as soon as that first goal goes in or that first bad decision by a referee, then it'll get me going and get the blood pumping very quickly indeed. So the quicker the better for me, whether it's Ibrox or on the telly.
I don't think you'll need to wait long for the referee decision to get you going, Frankie, let's be honest. And I had to laugh at you claiming you were a toddler when Kenny Dalglish played for Liverpool. Anyway, I think we'll call it quits on that. Right, guys, a big thanks to Stuart and Stephen, because that's us for this week. That's all for this week's episode of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans, where the content is free. As I said, thanks to Stuart and Stephen for their comments tonight. We'll probably have a show out next week. We're looking at the schedule. We might be having a wee break at some point in the future. Discussions are ongoing on that, but probably have a show next week. We'll keep you informed. Again, guys, a big thank you to all of you that have subscribed. 3,000 subscribers. It's been a great journey for us over the last couple of years, and as I said, there's been quite a spike recently. So for helping you get through lockdown, all the better, and please join us again on the show next week. We'll see what happens, but in the meantime, get yourself on to the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. Guys, stay safe, and until the next time, bye for